What kind of fool do you take me for? You're an insane theory, you're an insane theory, you're an insane theory, I'm an insane theory! Are there any other insane theories I should hear about? Gasters the Antichrist.
I'm out of here.
Hello everyone, I'm the Research Pod, and this video is actually not what it started out as. My original plan was to make one long theory video about Gasters' motive in Deltarune, his end goal and all that. And while I was typing the script, I started realizing things and coming up with other theories about Gaster stuff. So now it's kind of come together to this video. So instead of being the usual single theory video, this is going to kind of be me going through every Gaster related thing in Deltarune, providing my own explanations and theories for them until we build up to the final theory being his end goal. Also, just in general, this serves for me personally as a good way to keep track of all the Gaster stuff in the game. So yeah, without any further explanation, let's try and solve all this Gaster nonsense. Okay, so let's go rush through the basic boring stuff real quick. In Undertale, Gaster was the royal scientist with irreplaceable brilliance, notable for building the core, a large structure that powered all the energy in the underground. However, one day, Gaster tragically fell into his own creation and was scattered across time and space, being ripped into pieces. It's worth noting that while it was most likely the core that he fell into, that's not specified, it's just a creation of his he fell into, and even then, we don't really know if he fell by accident or if he jumped. We know his full name, Dr. W.D. Gaster, stands for Wingdings, a font made up of symbols and shapes that he speaks in, as evident by a few things, the most obvious being of course entry 17, in which Gaster details some new secret experiment he's beginning and asks two unknown people for their opinions on it. Gaster also quoted an excerpt from the prophecy about 3 legendary heroes needing to banish the Angel's Heaven at World's Edge in Wingdings long before Deltarune was released. But that's all the basics. Let's start to get into more in-depth stuff, because this guy is one cryptic son of a bitch to crack. We know, thanks to the Code of Undertale, that Gaster is tied to the number 666, a number which has religious meaning. Though commonly attributed to Satan, it was brought to my attention that in religion, 666 is actually the mark of the beast, a mark of evil. It is also worth noting that it's said the beast emerged from a body of water. We know that Gaster was most likely discussing the creation of a dark fountain in Entry 17, and the audio that plays during Entry 17 can be heard outside the mysterious bunker in the hometown woods, and also when trying to use the cell phone in the Dark Worlds. But let's jump back a bit to the release of Deltarune Chapter 1. We know, thanks to Toby Fox's Twitter messages, which he used to act as a way to have us read messages from Gaster, that A, Gaster, just as in Entry 17, always speaks in ominous sentence breaks and in all capitals when translated to English within these messages. Gaster confirmed that the world of Deltarune is something he created, seemingly birthing it before our eyes with the message, "Show yourself, Deltarune," before making us download Chapter 1, listed as Survey_Program. Survey Program begins, of course, with the segment known as the Goner Maker, in which Gaster summons a red soul and gives us, the player, control over it, guiding us along in the void known as the Depths, which plays a music remix of Gaster's theme from Undertale called Another Hymn, referencing Gaster being referred to as him in Undertale. In the Goner Maker, we are tasked to create a Goner version of Chris. Goners are gray, rarely spawning NPCs in Undertale that have become paranoid or lost in the world upon realizing the existence of another universe. We see this with Goner Kid, scared that there exists an alternate reality out there that functions perfectly without him, and with Clam Girl, who turns into a Goner in real time after accidentally telling us, the player, that we will soon be meeting someone named Susie. This NPC in particular was added to Undertale shortly before Survey Program's release. The Goner we create here in the Depths is known as the Vessel, and we are able to choose its favorite food, blood type, color, and gift. We are also asked how we feel about our creation, whether we love it or fear it. It's noted that the Vessel cannot hear our answer to this question, implying it could hear our previous responses. Finally, we are asked if we've answered honestly, and if we acknowledge the possibility of pain and seizures. Gaster then asks us to name the Vessel. It's worth pointing out that just like the human in Undertale, attempting to name the Vessel Gaster will instantly close the game. Gaster then asks us, the player, to put our own real name into the system before thanking us. However, he abruptly cuts us off, and our answers to the survey are discarded, and the soul Gaster placed us in control of is thrown inside Chris, where the game begins. So yeah, A lot of info to take in there. Gaster makes us download Deltarune, has us create a goner vessel to place the soul he put us in control of into, and then cuts himself off and relocates the soul inside of Chris. Weird stuff for sure. We will come back to the vessel later, as it heavily ties into my theory for Gaster's motive. But for now, let's move on to the next set of info. Introducing the secret bosses of Deltarune. Every new chapter there is a hidden boss fight with a character that, just like Gaster, is aware that they exist inside of a game, a fictional world, the prophecy, and go insane because of it. We know from the shopkeeper Sham, who strangely is referenced by Flowey in Undertale, that a strange man spoke to Jevil, the Card Kingdom jester, and after their discussion, caused Jevil to snap and become deranged over the info told to him, requiring Sham to lock Jevil up in a cell at the bottom of a castle, a cell that happens to clip out of bounds. Upon defeating Jevil, he warns us of events we now know take place in Chapter 2, and warns us that Hell's roar bubbles from the depths. Hop over to Chapter 2 and we have Spamton. Just as Jevil was a Joker card brought to life in the fountain, Spamton is a spam email brought to life. Once a great salesman, one day, Spamton got a call that only produced strange garbled noise, which caused him to go insane, breaking down mentally and interrupting himself when speaking with spam ads and nonsense. Given that this is clearly a phone call from Gaster, we can assume this garbage noise is the Entry 17 audio. So there seems to be a running theme here of Gaster letting out the secrets of the true nature of Deltarune as a video game to beings brought to life in the dark worlds that are discarded. The Joker card is commonly tossed aside in games where it is present, and obviously we know from Noelle's blog posts that Spamton would be the spam emails that bothered her now missing sister Des, which she would delete off the computer in the library. Discarded. The vessel is discarded. It's almost as if Gaster is setting up goners, isn't it? People who've lost their minds at the revelation of the reality of the world around them. Within Deltarune's code are intentionally unused hidden messages, where someone is calling out for help in a dark void, mentioning that they sometimes hear a scratching noise. Although we can assume that this noise is the Entry 17 audio, the identity of this manic speaker is unknown. We all mostly assume it's Des, which is a good theory, but it's also being tossed around that this could be the discarded vessel, which is a good point. After all, the vessel wasn't a pre-existing being that got gonered. It was created from scratch as a goner, intentionally made hollow and empty, only to be deleted, so the idea that it's lost nowhere in the game's code is certainly a possibility. Try if you can to remember all that info, because we're coming back to this later. Let's jump over to the Eggman. In Chapters 1 and 2 of Deltarune, walking back and forth through the loading zones of two specific rooms will eventually take you to strange locations known as the Place Between. In these secret rooms, which only Chris can enter, a red tree can be found. Checking behind the tree tells us that there is a man there, who then asks us a yes or no question. No matter our answer, you receive an egg from him before he disappears from behind the tree. You can't get rid of the egg. Throw them away? They come right back. Play on the new save file? It's still there. Delete your save file and start over? Still there. What egg? These eggs are marked as not important, not too unimportant, and seem to multiply when placed in specific areas in the light world, namely Asgore's fridge and the containers in Sans' shop. Now this Eggman has sparked a lot of discussion in the community, and for good reason. It's weird. Why eggs? Why does he vanish after speaking to him? Why is there only a smiling man waving at you in the car in Chapter 2 if you got the egg in Chapter 1? Why are the eggs so glitchy and unremovable? Obviously these are tied to Gaster, somehow. Do I think the Eggman is Gaster? No. But the Eggman has ties to Gaster through someone. The Roaring Knight. The mysterious character that has been opening the fountains and creating the Dark Worlds. The choice of the item being an egg is strange, right? Well, the fanbase agreed, and someone got to work on that. Eventually we found this. The word egg in all capitals can be translated to wingding symbols that show hands pointing in the directions of over 1 and up 2. Why is this important? Deltarune has a lot of theming with chess. Chapter 1 had an entire chessboard section. The main villain was the king, the first chess piece. The second piece is queen, the villain of Chapter 2. Then it goes the bishop, the knight, the rook, and lastly the pawn. Bishop, huh? While the dreamers are heavily religious and do worship the Church of the Angel, and the knight, over 1 and up 2, that's the movement pattern of the knight in chess. That's definitely not a coincidence. Is Gaster or the knight the Eggman? No. But all of these strange cryptic beings with mysterious behaviors all call back to Gaster and relate to him in some way. The use of the word man, Wingding's translations, and the knight, all of which are connected. But I think it's a big red herring. Like I said, the Eggman isn't the knight. It's a fake-out, like that fake-out in Chapter 2 that tricked us into thinking Chris was the knight for a few minutes. Now it's time for my favorite, that good old religious symbolism. Let's look at another set of mysterious items in Deltarune, the Shadow Crystals. We've established that Gaster spoke to Jevil and Spamton, the discarded characters, and drove them insane with his superior knowledge. When we defeat Jevil and Spamton, they give us a Shadow Crystal, a strange shard of glass that when holding it up to Chris's eye, they can see into the light world location where the dark world they're currently in resides. Giving the crystals to Sham allows him to appraise them for you, holding on to them and seemingly very happy that we keep collecting more. Sham seems to have knowledge of all these characters Gaster is speaking to. Hell, Sham even tells us that we need an item called the Shadow Mantle to defeat the secret boss of Chapter 3, which, let me remind you, exists in a dark world that didn't exist yet until later when Chris made the decision, unbound by the soul, to open a fountain in their own home. But I digress. The Light World Shadow Crystal flavor text is what I'm focusing on. Using them can give you various strange texts, but there's two I'd like to focus on. When using it, we are told it seems as though for a brief moment Chris was able to see through their own hand, as in their hand had a hole in it. Well, we know for damn sure who has holes in their hands. And now we get to go into that part where I start talking about symbolism and present crazy parallels. Okay, so, checking the Shadow Crystal tells us that it's a sharp shadow that moves like water in the hand. Water is something that's a big mystery in the game. Onion-san tells us about a cryptic song from beneath the waves of the sea, and when Chris falls to the first Dark World, we briefly hear audio of crashing waves called ocean.gg in the files. In my Azrael is the Angel theory video, I brought up the themes of the Dreamers being devoted to the hometown religion, worshipping the angel at church, Toriel keeping a book of hymns, Azrael and Chris's common adventures to the church, all that. I brought up that the Bible begins with God, who myself and basically the community has decided is Gaster, creates the light, the world, and the water. I tied the light back to the Goner vessel, and now it's time to expand this theory. Gaster is God, yes, in the way that he created the world of Deltarune. But along with other theories I recommend you go check out after this one, I think Gaster's a false prophet. We know Gaster's intentions aren't noble, but he's still leading us on and being nice to us, being very formal with us, allowing us to manipulate saves as we please, and all that good stuff. Now I know this section is going to sound funny, as it is typing, because this was a good meme for a while. But let's try and think about this for a moment. See, I have this belief that the religious symbolism in Deltarune is a pattern of being twisted to the opposite meaning when applied to the way it symbolizes within the game. Take again, for example, Gaster and the vessel being God and the light. The vessel is the exact opposite of a lightner. It's a discarded goner, just as Gaster is a false god. He's evil. 666, which he's tied to, is both symbolic of Satan and the mark of the beast. In the Bible, it is said that the beast emerged from the water. So if we take Gaster as being the unholy beast from hell, we can now see why Gaster keeps having all these ties to water. Remember how I said he's a false prophet? You know what else the beast is? The Antichrist, the son of Satan that will trick and manipulate others down a path to hell. Got that? Good. Let's jump back to Chris. Remember the fight with King in Chapter 1? It was a cool fight with good tension, and because of that a lot of us kinda skipped over and didn't pay much attention to his battle dialogue. But if we look back, notice this. He calls Chris the Lightbringer. And no, this can't be referring to the leader of Lightners, because, well, Ralse is on our team, and he's a Darkner working with Lightners. So to call Chris the Lightbringer is very specific. I mean, Susie is helping this problem as much as Chris is after all. So what's the Lightbringer? Well, the Lightbringer is the title used to refer to Lucifer, someone said to cage souls, and Lucifer's name is Lightbringer in Latin after all. Common misconception, Lucifer and Satan are not one and the same. Lucifer is the name given to the king of Babylon. Now listen to this passage from the Bible and see if you can pick out any key Deltarune terms. And no wonder, for Satan himself keeps disguising himself as an angel of light. It is therefore nothing extraordinary if his ministers also keep disguising themselves as ministers of righteousness. But what I'm focusing on is this part right here, the more common telling of it, which goes, "Soldier of Christ, why art thou hidden? The demon of Babylon disguises himself with the coat of the righteous." We tied Gaster back to being a stand-in for Satan, the ruler and false god of hell. Just as Jevil says, hell's roar bubbles from the depths being, of course, the name of the void Gaster is trapped within. Go back to that passage I just read, and we can add in Chris, the Lightbringer, Lucifer, the king of Babylon. Chris has been placed in this mission to stop the roaring by Gaster. We know that. God and Christ. That's Gaster. Chris is the soldier of Christ, and that passage asks the soldier why they are hidden, meaning, why are you ominous and secretive? Only for the soldier to be revealed as Lucifer, the demon of Babylon, who had been disguising itself with the cloak of the righteous, meaning the Lightbringer was pretending to be a soldier on a noble and protective quest, only to actually be on a quest to bring about something unholy. What is Chris' quest? To seal the dark fountains. Remember when I said that the symbolism is reversed? The song that plays when Chris seals a fountain is called The Holy, in those classic Gaster all capitals. It's reversed. It's a lie. Gaster, the false god, is manipulating and tricking Chris, the Lightbringer, into doing actions in a holy quest for noble causes, only to truly be doing unholy actions. Chris is unknowingly disguising himself with the coat of the righteous, a soldier, a knight, but not really the knight. Just as Chris being the knight was a fake out, it's another lie, a red herring. But why? Why is Gaster doing this to Chris? Jevil mentioned something called the shadow in the knight's hand. Well, we know that the game lied to us and made us think for a moment that Chris was the knight. Who is being controlled by us, the player? Who controls the soul? And what dark entity have we created? The vessel. That's why it looks like Chris. The vessel was the real soldier of Christ, the real being meant to be the human to stop the roaring and the prophecy. So Gaster had us create them, and then pulled the rug out from under our feet and threw the soul into Chris, the Lightbringer. But I ask again, why? Well, this is where we get to my theory on Gaster's goal, his motive. Something I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen anyone else come up with or post about, because it's the most obvious answer. One of the only things we know for certain about Gaster is that he was ripped apart in time and space after falling into his creation. The physical makeup of his body was scattered. In Undertale, we learn about determination, the manifestation of willpower in a soul of a monster to let them live on past death. But only humans have enough determination in their souls to properly come back from the dead. Attempts to use determination on monsters resulted in their bodies melting down and melding together, creating the amalgamates. One being created from, well, the amalgamation of one or another or more beings. We see that with each fountain Chris uses the soul to seal, they grow stronger, and thus so does the determination within the soul. This is why they're able to open the fountain at the end of Chapter 2. Just like Queen said, any lightner with above average determination can open a fountain. And Chris already had more determination than others because the soul sealed the first Dark World in Chapter 1. So that's it. That's Gaster's goal. Use Chris, the Lightbringer, and trick them into going on an unholy quest disguised to be a holy one to grow the determination in the soul by sealing the dark fountains. And once it's strong enough, Gaster can swoop in and take the soul back, using the determination to get a physical form back by turning himself into an amalgamate. But what other being can Gaster use to do that? Well, the one being he had us create because he couldn't do it without a physical form. The vessel, who's being held in the depths, with Gaster while he waits for the determination and the soul within Chris to grow strong enough to exact his plan, crying out for help and hearing the scratching garble audio of Gaster's tormented shapeless form in the depths. And that makes Chris the final chess piece, the pawn, a literal pawn in Gaster's plan. So I have to admit, I'm a little proud of this theory. And yes, this did all start with me thinking it was weird that Chris was called the Lightbringer by King. I do genuinely think the rough ideas of this theory do have a decently high chance of being somewhat true. But hey, at the end of the day, I'm just out here trying to contribute to this community with my own little crazy ideas. So what do you guys think? Is this theory plausible, or do I sound absolutely insane? Also, now I get to go off script because it's the end of the video. I want to say, this channel has been like what? I mean, you could say 2 months, but I mean, my As Real as the Angel video came out like really near the end of the last month. So I'm gonna say this channel's only been around for a month, and I've already gotten 109 subs. And I mean, wow, you guys. Look, I'm not in this for, I don't want big. I mean, I'll take it, but I'm not trying to get big subscribers and get get a ton of likes and views. I'm just in it because I just want to make videos, and I just want to get my little stupid Deltarune ideas out there, because this is an experience that with Deltarune being a game that's released in chapters, there's going to be a time in the future where this game is complete and you're going to be able to just sit down and play it in a few hours and be done with it. And this moment in time that we're in, where we're able to grow with the game and make our own theories, and we all get to go insane as a community. Future players this is a limited time. We're not going to have this forever. And with how much Toby Fox's work really means to me, I just kind of want to use this channel as my way to get my little thoughts and ideas out there, so I can contribute to the community, and also just have my little part of me. Like, yeah, when Deltarune was coming out, I was just like them, the other theorists. I was out here doing my own little thing. So that's why. But I do, however, respect and I appreciate all of you for subscribing to me. That means a lot that you guys are willing. 109 of you so far are willing to stick around and listen to me ramble about nonsense for 20 minutes. But yeah, I don't have a way to close off this video. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Probably going to be a newsletter analysis, but I don't know. We'll see. So with that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.